The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was older than human civilization. Its walls were made of crystal that sang when light passed through them. 47 species had gathered here for thousands of years to decide the fate of worlds. Today, they would decide the fate of Earth. High Arbiter Velketh stood at the center of the chamber. His body was tall and thin, covered in silver scales that shifted color with his mood. Right now they were dark blue. He was worried. "We have watched the humans for 300 years, he said. His voice echoed through the vast room. They have spread to 12 star systems. Their population grows faster than any species we have recorded, and they show no signs of slowing down." The representatives of 46 other species listened in silence. Some floated in tanks of water. Others perched on branches designed for their bird-like bodies. A few existed only as patterns of light, their physical forms long abandoned. Ambassador Crix of the Methane spoke next. His voice bubbled through a translation device. "They are aggressive. Their history is filled with war. They killed each other for centuries before they reached the stars." "Many species have violent histories," said the Velmoth representative. She was ancient, her shell cracked with age. "We did, the Sindari did. This alone does not make them dangerous." "No," Velketh agreed, "but their speed does. Their adaptability does. In 300 years, they have achieved what took us 2,000. If we wait another century, they may be beyond our ability to control." The word hung in the air. Control. It was what the Council did. They managed the galaxy. They decided which species would rise and which would fall. They had done this for longer than anyone could remember. "What do you propose?" asked the Rethani hive mind, speaking through a dozen mouths at once. Velketh's scales shifted to pale green. "Decision. The crucible test, as we have done for every species that reaches this level of development." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The crucible was ancient tradition, a manufactured crisis designed to reveal a species' true nature. It showed how they responded to impossible situations. Did they cooperate or fight among themselves? Did they sacrifice the few to save the many? Did they break or did they bend? "The test has served us well," Velketh continued. "It has prevented wars. It has shown us which species can be trusted with galactic citizenship and which must be managed." The Velmoth representative shifted uneasily. "And if they fail? Then we will know. Better to learn now than to welcome a threat into our midst." The vote was called. 43 species voted in favor. 3 abstained. Only the Velmoth voted against, and their objection was noted but ignored. Now came the question of method. The crucible had to appear natural. The humans could never know they were being tested. If they learned the truth, the results would be meaningless. "A plague," suggested the Kethri delegate, "released on one of their colony worlds. Something deadly but slow. It will force them to make hard choices." "And a blockade," added Ambassador Crix. "Ships of unknown origin. They will prevent escape and stop outside help from arriving. The humans will be alone with their dying." Velketh considered this. It was elegant. A colony cut off from Earth, a disease with no cure. The humans would be forced to show who they truly were. Would their leaders abandon the sick to save the healthy? Would their people panic and turn on each other? Would they beg the galaxy for help, revealing their weakness? "Which colony?" he asked. "New Valencia," said the Kethri. 16 million humans, far enough from Earth to delay response, but important enough that they cannot ignore it. The plan was approved. Special teams were assembled. The plague was engineered in secret laboratories designed to resist human medicine, but not advance council treatments. The blockade ships were built without markings, their technology disguised to appear alien and unknown. Everything was prepared with care. The Council had done this many times before. They knew how species reacted to crisis. Fear came first, then anger, then despair. Eventually, the tested species always reached out for help. They always revealed their true nature. Velketh felt confident as he watched the operation begin. The plague ship slipped into New Valencia's atmosphere. The blockade vessels took their positions at the edge of the system. Communication jammers activated, cutting the colony off from the rest of humanity. The test had begun. On New Valencia, the first cases appeared within days. A strange fever that spread quickly and killed slowly. Hospitals filled. Doctors worked without sleep. And when ships tried to leave the system to seek help, they found weapons pointed at them. One ship escaped just long enough to send a single message toward Earth, a cry for help. A plea that was cut short by weapons fire, then silence. The Council watched and waited. They expected the usual pattern: panic, then division, then collapse. Every species broke eventually. It was simply a matter of time. But as days passed and their observers reported back, something strange began to happen. The humans were not panicking. They were not fighting among themselves. They were not begging for help. They were going quiet. And in the council chamber, the Velmoth representative felt the first cold touch of fear. She had studied human history. She knew what that silence meant. It was not the silence of defeat. It was the silence before the storm. The message from New Valencia reached Earth at 3 in the morning, local time in Geneva. It was broken and full of static. Most of it was lost. But enough remained to paint a terrible picture. Plague, ships blocking escape, people dying. Help us. Then nothing. President Maria Santos was woken from sleep. Within an hour, she sat in a room with the most powerful leaders on Earth. Their faces were pale, their hands were shaking, but their eyes were hard. "How many?" she asked. 16 million colonists, said General Park. "We cannot reach them. All communication has stopped. We sent 3 scout ships. None return." "Who is responsible?" "Unknown. The ships do not match any design in our records. They appeared from nowhere and established a blockade. They are not responding to any attempts at contact." Santos looked around the table. She saw fear in every face, but she also saw something else, something that burned beneath the fear like fire beneath ice. "Options," she said. For the next 6 hours they talked. They argued, they shouted. But something strange happened as the hours passed. The arguments grew quieter. The disagreements faded. It was as if humanity itself was taking a deep breath. By morning, the decision was made. Every ship, every soldier, every resource, all of it would go to New Valencia. There would be no debate, no negotiation, no waiting. Their children were dying. Nothing else mattered. The orders went out across human space. Military bases that had been rivals for funding suddenly worked as one. Research laboratories that had guarded their secrets shared everything. Factories that made consumer goods switched to producing medicine and weapons. It was as if a switch had been flipped inside the human species. All the petty conflicts, all the political games, all the competition that marked daily life simply stopped. For the first time in living memory, humanity moved with a single purpose. The Council observers watched this from hidden stations throughout human space. They had seen species respond to crisis before. This was not normal. "They are leaving their other colonies undefended," reported Agent Trell. "Every combat vessel is moving toward New Valencia. If we attacked any other system right now, they could not respond." High Arbiter Velketh received this report with confusion. "That makes no sense. No rational species would leave themselves so vulnerable. They must be bluffing. They must have hidden reserves." "Our scans show no hidden reserves. They are truly committing everything. It is strategic madness." But the Velmoth representative understood. She had spent decades studying humans. She knew their history in ways the others did not. "It is not madness," she said quietly. "It is who they are. They do not think like us. When we face a threat, we calculate acceptable losses. We balance risk against reward. We protect what can be saved and sacrifice what cannot. And the humans? The humans do not accept loss, not when it comes to their own. They will burn everything to save their people, including themselves." Velketh's scales flickered with disbelief. "No species is that irrational." "They are not irrational. They are loyal. There is a difference." On Earth, the fleets gathered, hundreds of ships of every size and type, warships and hospital vessels, troop carriers and supply freighters. They formed the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. Admiral Chen Wei-lin stood on the bridge of the UES Perseverance and looked at the fleet around her. She was 53 years old. She had served in the Navy for 30 years. She had seen combat. She had lost friends. She knew what was coming. "Admiral," said her first officer, "we have received reports from the other colony worlds. They are sending messages of support. Some civilians are volunteering to serve as crew replacements. They know we are leaving them unprotected. And they approve? They understand. Many of them have family on New Valencia." Chen nodded. This was what the enemy did not understand. Humanity was not a collection of separate colonies. It was a family, a loud, messy, argumentative family that fought over everything. But when something threatened one of them, they stopped fighting each other and started fighting together. "Signal all ships," Chen said. "We depart in 6 hours. Anyone who is not ready will be left behind. There will be no second chances." No ships were left behind. The fleet jumped to faster than light speed, leaving Earth's solar system dark and quiet behind them. Every fighting ship was gone. Every person who could hold a weapon or operate a medical scanner was on their way to New Valencia. The Council observers reported this with growing alarm. They had never seen anything like it. Species did not behave this way. They did not abandon everything for a single colony. They did not ignore their own survival to save others. But humans did. Because to humans, there was no difference between their survival and the survival of their children. To abandon New Valencia would be to abandon themselves. It would be to admit that their lives were worth more than the lives of others. And that was something humans could not accept. The fleets burned through space toward a blockade of unknown ships, toward a plague that was killing thousands every day, toward an enemy that had no idea what was coming. Humanity was going to war, and humanity did not know how to lose. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the New Valencia system. 347 ships, every weapon armed, every crew ready. Admiral Chen Wei-lin looked at the tactical display on her screen. The enemy blockade appeared as 12 red dots arranged in a loose circle around the planet. They were larger than she had expected. Their technology was clearly advanced, but they were few. "Open a channel," she said. "All frequencies. I want them to hear this." The communications officer nodded. "Channel open, Admiral." Chen's voice was calm and cold as ice. "Unknown vessels. You are blocking access to a human colony world. You have fired on human ships. You have killed human citizens. You have 30 minutes to withdraw from the system. This is your only warning. There will be no negotiation. There will be no second chances. Leave now, or we will remove you." She cut the channel. On the Council observation vessel Serene Observer, Captain Vethrall listened to the human transmission with confusion. This was not how tested species behaved. They were supposed to ask questions. They were supposed to try to negotiate. They were supposed to show fear. "Should we respond?" asked his first officer. "No. The test requires that we maintain silence. They will grow frustrated. Eventually, they will try to negotiate. They always do." He was wrong. The human fleet did not wait. It did not send more messages. It simply began to move. 300 ships spreading out into attack formation, their engines burning bright against the darkness of space. On the Perseverance, Admiral Chen watched the clock count down. 29 minutes, 28, 27. Admiral, said her tactical officer, the enemy ships are not moving. They appear to be holding position. Good, makes them easier to hit. Are we really going to fire on unknown vessels? We do not know who they are. We do not know their capabilities. We do not know if this will start a larger war. Chen turned to face her officer. Her eyes were like stone. They are standing between us and 16 million of our people. 16 million people who are dying while we talk. I do not care who they are. I do not care about starting a war. I care about reaching that planet before anyone else dies. If they want peace, they can move. If they don't, we will move them ourselves. The clock reached 30 minutes. All ships, Chen said. Fire. The darkness of space lit up with light. Hundreds of weapons fired at once. Missiles and energy beams and kinetic projectiles, all racing toward the 12 enemy vessels at incredible speed. On the Serene Observer, Captain Vetherall had exactly 4 seconds to understand that everything he knew about humans was wrong. Then his ship ceased to exist. The battle lasted less than 4 minutes. The Council vessels were advanced, but they were not designed for real combat. They were observation ships built for watching, not fighting. They had never needed heavy weapons because no tested species had ever responded with force. Humans were not like other species. When the last enemy ship exploded, the human fleet did not stop to celebrate. They did not pause to examine the wreckage. They burned straight for New Valencia at maximum speed. On the planet's surface, the colonists had been fighting the plague for weeks. Hospitals were overflowing. The dead were being burned in mass graves because there was no time to bury them. The people who were still healthy worked without sleep, trying to save those who were sick. They had given up hope of rescue. The blockade had seemed impossible to break. Every ship that tried to leave was destroyed. They were alone. Then the sky filled with human ships. Medical teams landed within hours. Doctors and nurses and equipment flooded the hospitals. The cure for the plague would take time to develop, but the humans brought supplies that could slow it down. They brought food and clean water. They brought hope. Admiral Chen herself walked through the largest hospital. She saw the sick and the dying. She saw children crying for parents who would never wake up. She saw the price of what the enemy had done. Find out who did this, she said to her intelligence officer. Find out everything. I want names. I want locations. I want to know why. The wreckage of the enemy ships held secrets. Data cores survived the destruction. Human engineers worked day and night to crack their encryption. What they found changed everything. The ships were not unknown. They belonged to the Galactic Council. The plague was not natural. It was designed. The entire crisis was manufactured to test humanity. 16 million people had been used as tools. Thousands had died so that aliens could see how humans responded to suffering. When Admiral Chen read the report, her hands did not shake. Her voice did not rise. She simply nodded once and said, "Get me a direct line to Earth and prepare a diplomatic team." "For negotiation, Admiral?" Chen looked at her officer with eyes that held no mercy. "No, to deliver our response." The Council had wanted to see what humanity truly was. Now they would learn, not through observation, not through tests, through consequences. The Council chamber had never been so quiet. 47 species sat in their places, but no one spoke. The great screens on the walls showed the same images again and again. 12 Council vessels reduced to scattered debris. Human warships in orbit around New Valencia, medical camps spreading across the planet's surface. High Arbiter Velketh stood at the center of the room. His scales had turned a gray color that no one had ever seen before. It was the color of failure. How did this happen? Demanded Ambassador Crix. The test was supposed to be safe. We have done this for 3,000 years. No species has ever fought back. No species has ever been human, said the Velmuth representative. Her voice was tired but not surprised. I warned you. I voted against this. You did not listen. The test was designed according to proper protocols. Your protocols mean nothing to them. The old Velmuth rose from her seat. Despite her age, her voice was strong. You thought you understood humans because you watched them from a distance. You saw their wars and thought you knew violence. You saw their conflicts and thought you knew division. But you saw only the surface. She walked slowly to the center of the chamber, where a hologram of Earth floated in the air. Humans are a species that spent thousands of years fighting each other over land and resources and ideas. Yes, this is true, but what you failed to see is what happens when they stop fighting each other. What happens when something threatens their children? They behave like any species, Velketh said. They defend themselves. No. The Velmuth shook her head. Other species defend themselves. Humans transform. Every division disappears. Every conflict ends. They become a single organism with a single purpose, and that purpose is absolute. They will not stop. They will not negotiate. They will not accept any outcome except victory. That is impossible. No species can unify so completely. And yet they did. In less than 3 days, they assembled the largest military force in their history. They left their other colonies undefended. They committed everything to saving one world. The Velmoth turned to face Velketh directly. You tested them with fire. You should have expected to be burned. The doors to the chamber opened. Every representative turned to look. Human Ambassador Yuki Tanaka walked into the room. She was small by human standards. Her hair was gray with age. Her face was calm. She walked alone without guards or assistants, but she carried herself like a weapon. High Arbiter Velketh, she said. Her voice was quiet, but it reached every corner of the vast chamber. I am Ambassador Tanaka of the United Earth Government. I am here to discuss what you have done. Velketh's scales flickered nervously. Ambassador, we are prepared to explain. I did not ask for explanations. I know what happened. You released a plague on our colony. You blockaded our ships. You watched our people die. We recovered your data cores. We read your communications. We know everything. Silence. Not even the whisper of movement. 3,427 of our people died because of your test. Tanaka continued. Mothers, fathers, children. They died in pain and fear while your observers took notes. They died because you wanted to see how we would react. It was a necessary measure, Velketh began, to ensure galactic stability. Do not speak to me of necessity. Tanaka's voice did not rise, but something in it made Velketh step back. You could have talked to us. You could have invited us to join your council and judged us by our words and actions. Instead, you chose to kill our children. Other species have been tested. I do not care about other species. I care about humans, my people, the people you chose to use as subjects in your experiment. Ambassador Crix leaned forward. What do you want? Reparations? An apology? We can negotiate. You do not seem to understand your position, Tanaka said. We are not here to ask for anything. We are here to tell you what is going to happen. For the first time, real fear appeared on Velketh's face. Is that a threat? It is a fact. You showed us something important today. You showed us that the galaxy contains species who will murder our children to test our character. You showed us that we cannot trust you. You showed us that we are alone. Tanaka paused. Her eyes moved across the chamber, looking at each representative in turn. We came to the stars hoping to find friends. You made us find enemies instead. And now you will learn what happens when humanity has enemies. You cannot threaten the entire council, Velketh said. We are 47 species. You are one. Tanaka smiled. It was not a warm smile. You have never seen what one human species can do when it is truly motivated. Would you like to find out? Or would you prefer to listen to our terms? The chamber was silent. 47 species, ancient and powerful, and none of them dared to speak. Because they had seen the debris of their ships floating in space around New Valencia. They had seen how fast humans could move when they had a reason. They had seen what happened when humanity stopped arguing with itself and started fighting its enemies. And they were afraid. We will listen, Velketh said finally. His voice was barely a whisper. Tanaka nodded. Good. Then let me tell you exactly what humanity expects. Ambassador Tanaka stood in the center of the council chamber. 47 species watched her in silence. The most powerful beings in the galaxy waited to hear what a single human would demand. First, she said, you will provide full disclosure of all council activities regarding Earth and human space. Every observation, every report, every plan. We will know exactly what you have done and what you intended to do. High Arbiter Velketh nodded slowly. It was a reasonable demand. Embarrassing, but reasonable. Second, you will transfer technology to help us cure the plague you created. Your medical science is advanced. Our people are still dying. You will give us everything we need to save them. That can be arranged, Velketh said carefully. Third, you will grant humanity a permanent seat on this council, not as a junior member, not as an observer, as an equal voice in all decisions. Murmurs spread through the chamber. This was unprecedented. Species had to prove themselves for centuries before receiving full council membership. Humanity had been in space for barely 300 years. That is irregular, Velketh said. I do not care what is regular. You tested us. We passed. We answered your crisis in 3 days. We destroyed your blockade in 4 minutes. We are already treating the plague you created. We have proven ourselves. Now you will recognize it. Velketh looked around the chamber. He saw fear in every face. He saw no support for resistance. And the fourth demand? He asked. Tanaka's expression hardened. The crucible test ends. Today, forever. You will never test another species this way again. Impossible, said Ambassador Crix. The test has maintained galactic stability for 3,000 years. Without it, you will have to actually talk to new species. You will have to judge them by their actions rather than their suffering. You will have to treat them as equals rather than subjects. The test serves a purpose. The test is murder. Tanaka's voice cut through the objection like a blade. You have killed millions of beings across thousands of years to satisfy your curiosity. You have destroyed civilizations that might have become your allies. You have created enemies where you could have found friends. She stepped forward. Her small frame seemed to fill the entire chamber. Humanity will not allow this to continue. You wanted to know what we are. Now you know. We are the species that will not permit our children to be used as tools for your judgment. We are the species that answers pain with purpose and death with determination. Her voice dropped to something that was almost a whisper, but every being in the chamber heard it clearly. Test us again, and we will not stop at 12 ships. We will find every world that voted for this action. We will visit every species that approved the murder of our people, and we will ensure that you understand exactly how seriously we take our obligations to our own. This is not a threat, it is a promise, and humans keep their promises. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then the Velmoth representative rose from her seat. I support the human demands, she said. All of them. The test was always wrong. We simply refused to see it. One by one, other representatives stood. The Rathani hive mind, the delegates from the gas giant worlds, even Ambassador Crix, his objections dying unspoken. Within an hour, the vote was complete. All four demands were accepted. Humanity had joined the Galactic Council. In the years that followed, the galaxy learned what this truly meant. Humans did not want conquest. They did not want revenge. They wanted something far more dangerous. They wanted to protect. When the Rathani worlds faced extinction from a dying star, human engineers designed evacuation ships that saved billions. When the K3 were attacked by pirates, human warships appeared without being asked and hunted the attackers across 3 systems. When a new species emerged from their home world, uncertain and afraid, human diplomats were the first to greet them with open hands instead of tests. The Council had believed that the galaxy was a dangerous place that required careful management. Humans believed something different. They believed that the galaxy could be a family if only someone was willing to fight for it, and humans were always willing to fight for family. High Arbiter Velketh served for another decade before retiring. In his final address to the Council, he spoke about what he had learned. "We thought we were testing humanity," he said. "We thought we were measuring their strength, their unity, their resolve. We were wrong. Humanity was testing us. They showed us that our ancient traditions were built on fear, not wisdom. They showed us that true strength comes from protection, not control." He paused, his scales shifting to a color that meant peace. "We asked what humanity was. They answered with fire and fury. But in the years since, they have answered again with compassion and sacrifice. They are warriors and healers. They are fierce and gentle. They are everything we feared and everything we needed. The galaxy is safer now than it has been in 10,000 years. Not because we control it, but because humanity guards it. They guard us all, regardless of species, regardless of history. Even us, who murdered their children to see how they would react. That is humanity's true answer. Not vengeance, but protection. Not hatred, but duty. They will never forget what we did, but they have chosen to defend us anyway. That is what makes them truly terrifying and truly beautiful. The Council had tested Earth hoping to find humanity's breaking point. Instead, they had found its purpose, and the galaxy would never be the same.